Hey everybody, I'm PeanutButterGamer, and welcome to my list of the top 5 best and worst of E3 2010.
E3 is always a big deal to gamers, and this year was no exception. While it certainly had some disappointments, E3 2010 also had its share of excitement, and I'm here to give you the top 5 in each category. But let's start off with the top 5 best. Number 5. I've already mentioned this in a previous video. I thought Sony's E3 press conference this year was really boring, and I stand by that. Though amidst the drudgery, there were a few gems, and surprisingly enough, Sorcery was one of them. In Sorcery, you use spells to defeat enemies, but it's the one-to-one motion controls that make it really look entertaining. Waving my hand to create a firewall and then destroying enemies with a fiery gust of wind? Yes, please. Number 4. There was some speculation that Nintendo would come to E3 with franchises that we haven't seen in a while, and what do you know, for once speculation was actually right. One of those franchises was Donkey Kong Country. While I personally would have preferred another 3D Donkey Kong Country Returns definitely looks promising. There's even word going around that this new version is more challenging than previous installments. Here's hoping. Number 3. It's been about 10 years since Marvel vs. Capcom 2 came out on the Dreamcast, and fighting fans have been waiting for a third installment since. This year, Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was announced, and gamers across the globe were finally able to drool over some of the gameplay from the E3 demo. We also got a first glimpse at some characters in the game, such as Felicia and Captain America. Number 2. The original Dead Space is one of my favorite current generation games, so it's no surprise that I was looking forward to seeing more of Dead Space 2. Fortunately for me, as well as everyone else, Visceral Games didn't disappoint at E3 this year. They treated us to not only a new trailer, but tons of gameplay as well. Dead Space 2 is looking great, and I know I'm not the only one who's looking forward to it. Number 1. By far the most impressive thing at E3 was actually something I originally wasn't interested in at all. The Nintendo 3DS isn't simply a new version of the DS, it's an entirely new handheld altogether. Not only does it have the glassesless adjustable 3D that attendees seem to be raving about, it also has extensively improved graphical capabilities, a wide top screen, an analog stick, and the ability to play movies in 3D. But what impresses me even more? It already has a very nice list of games on the way. Nintendo, I am sold.
Unfortunately, E3 wasn't all good. As always, it had its share of disappointments, and here are my top 5.
Number 5. Since it was originally confirmed at E3 2008, fans of the Pikmin series have been anxiously awaiting more info on Pikmin 3. While Mr. Miyamoto has confirmed that the game is in development, we didn't see anything from it at E3 this year. You're not going to hear too much complaining from me considering how good Nintendo's press conference was, but it was still disappointing to not see anything new from the series. Number 4. Despite the fact that it's a blatant Wiimote ripoff, the Move from PlayStation actually looks pretty promising. One thing that's not promising, however, the price tag. Expect to pay about $49.99 for the motion controller and $29.99 for the navigation controller. While it's still lower than the speculated 2B price of the Kinect, if you want more than one controller, hope you have some spare cash. Number 3. Sony, in my opinion, had the best press conference last year in 2009, and one of the most intriguing games they showed off was The Last Guardian. Sadly, we saw nothing of it this year. Though it's still speculated to show at the next Tokyo Game Show, it's still incredibly disappointing to not see it at E3, especially because that tells me that it's likely not as close to release as I was originally hoping. Number 2. Before E3, Valve promised its fans a surprise, and even though it was confirmed to not be Half-Life 2 Episode 3, their fans were still expecting something big. The surprise turned out to be Portal 2 for the PS3. While this may be great news for some, most Valve fans could care less because they already purchased Valve games on either their PC or 360. I honestly can't blame Valve for the announcement, and I can't even blame the fans for being irritated, but I can, however, list it as my second biggest disappointment of E3 2010.
You monster.
Number 1.
The worst part about E3 this year was Microsoft's press conference just in general. They started off alright with some games like Gears of War, but then they went on for nearly an hour with just crappy looking Wii ripoffs for the Kinect. Now, I'm not saying that the Kinect is going to fail, and I wish them the best with it, but what they showed this year was just plain awful, and by far the worst part of E3. That's my list of the top 5 best and worst things of E3 2010. I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.